7 weeks. My name is Daniel Vallis and welcome to our channel. It has been an amazing learning journey, and I always say that because it is. Every single day that we've been going forward almost, we've been seeing treasure along the way. We've almost been turning over every single rock as we've been going forward. We go forward day by day, step by step, asking the Lord for wisdom and strength because we've been brought to a time that is just full of so many pictures and types of redemption. We're at a time where there's almost an overload of different pictures of redemption. And we recently passed several, and there's more right in front of us in the days ahead. We see so many right here that has captivated our attention, especially when we consider that we've looked up, we've lifted up our heads, we've seen celestial signs, we've seen the rehearsals of our Redeemer, the one who purchased us. And he told us that that will tell us that our redemption, the pickup of a purchased possession, that redemption is drawing nigh. It's up ahead. You should be expecting your pickup. You've already been purchased. You just need to be picked up. And we know just by looking at the calendar and what's rehearsed at this time, we know there's treasure even in the days ahead. So we go forward one day at a time, looking for him to appear the second time. And this is what we covered in our last video, the importance of understanding when did Christ come the first time? What is the context of that? Where did it take place? Who was involved? Because this is so important, and Paul emphasized we understand that Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many. But that happened in a broader context. There were other events that preceded that of when he appeared the first time. What followed that was a process that started on that first day when he came. The betrayal, the crucifixion, the resurrection, the ascension, all that is really pegged to the very first day when the Lamb presented himself as the King. And so when we understand how he came the first time, what led up to his presentation, his entry, that gives us an idea of a time frame when we should be looking and we should be expecting, really expecting him to be showing up during this time, because this is the time he came the first time. So we are looking for him to appear the second time, understanding that this is the commemorative time when he came the first time. The 10th day of the first month was when the King was announced that he had come. Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. That was the announcement. The King has come. He is here. This is when he is appearing before all as the King. And even Jesus emphasized, this is the day. This is your day. You don't know it, Jerusalem, though, because you're not paying attention to what I commanded you hundreds of years before in the prophets. This was their day, and they were told ahead of time that the King, the Messiah, was going to be visiting on this very day. The King was going to be coming on this day, and they needed to be expecting him. They weren't. And that goes back to the prophecy in Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. This was a prophecy given all the way back at the time of Daniel, with the clear emphasis, you need to know this, you need to understand this. The Messiah, the Prince, is coming, and here's the exact schedule when he's coming. You will know when he's visiting if you understand and pay attention to these instructions. And this prophecy was given to Daniel, and there's very good reason to suspect that the wise men knew this prophecy. They knew a time to be looking for the celestial events, for the scepter star. And all they would have to do is understand this timing and back up approximately 33 years. And that's when they'd start looking for the celestial signs that would herald his birth. And that's what they saw. That's how they knew the King of the Jews was born, because they were looking for him. They knew the prophecy. And apparently Daniel's teachings on these prophecies were also passed down into educational circles of the astronomers there. But certainly the Hebrew people had it too. And it was primarily the responsibility of the religious leaders to know and to understand this bit of information. They were foretold about it. They were to know this, study it, and then to understand it, and then get the people ready for his visitation when he was coming. And they knew exactly when he was coming. But in spite of all the warning, hundreds of years in advance of warning, they weren't ready. Now, in our video today, we don't have time to dive deep into this prophecy or all the nuances of it. There are hundreds and thousands of articles online about this. So there's no shortage of information about it. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. But I am going to share some thoughts on these 7 weeks, because it definitely appears there is a double fulfillment in our time, and how this prophecy even extends to the end times. It definitely appears that there's another application in the time we are at, and especially when we see it in context of the celestial signs and everything else that we've seen. in this last generation, leading us up to this very narrow time frame and this exact time of redemption. Now, Daniel Mattson from watchfortheday.org, he's talked a lot about this, and many are familiar with his work. His articles on it as well. It's a good starting place if you're doing study on this. But he and others have pointed out there is a distinct mark, there is a time in recent history within this last generation that relates to the rebuilding of Jerusalem. And we're at a time that marks out approximately 49 years from that. So it should catch our attention. And he and other people who cover this subject as well all come to the same conclusion, that is bringing us right round to this time here in early 2018. Now, we had looked at the Jubilee cycle from what appears to be the last Jubilee when Jerusalem was recaptured in 1967. That strongly appears to be the Jubilee year that happened in. It shouldn't surprise us. And just last year, Jerusalem celebrated its 50th anniversary, but it was also in a Jubilee year too, because that was 50 years from that same year as well, from the Jubilee year. And to the best of our understanding, this is the Jubilee cycle, how it has played out. But with the 7 weeks, with the 49 weeks, historically on April 1st, 1969, that's when the Knesset voted to consider rebuilding the Jewish quarter. And that's what's historically more associated with Jerusalem, as King David and Jesus would recognize it as. So it does stand out that there is a distinct historical marker related to rebuilding Jerusalem, what we would know biblically as Jerusalem. Now, amidst all the discussion, there's a secondary date that goes with it, because on May 6th, 1969, that's when some consider the command was actually given to begin the construction. Some would argue that the April 1st date was when they started planning it, and they suggest May 6th is actually when the command went forth to actually start on the work. So there's room for discussion, but it is real close right around here, and those dates are obviously close to each other. But it does give us a window of when the rebuilding in Old Jerusalem started. That's dealing with the Jewish quarter there. Again, the part of Jerusalem that would be more familiar to King David and Jesus' disciples, what we would see as biblical Jerusalem, the old city there. And if we stand on the Mount of Olives and we look across the Kidron Valley, you're pretty much looking on the left of the Temple Mount area there. That would be the Jewish quarter right up there. And here's a view from the Jewish quarter looking back at the Mount of Olives, almost exactly where the bridge would have gone over, and the red heifer sacrifice right in that green area approximately. But it was on May 6th that the actual construction work started, and here's a news article from May 9th, just a few days after it started. This is when boots on the ground really started the rebuilding effort there. So there's a little room for discussion between April 1st and May 6th. Very close dates, but we'll put it on the table and we'll consider it. So 49 years from April 1st would be a window between March 20th to April 1st, 2018, depending on how you count the years, and we'll get to that in a moment. But for May 6th, 49-year window would be April 24th through May 6th. And I will say the May 6th command actually begin the construction is the weaker of the two arguments. The actual declaration, the governmental declaration, many see as April 1st, because that was the actual declaration. Again, room for discussion there, but the dates are pretty close, so we'll consider it. Now note that the initial decree went out on April 1st, 1969. And that was Passover. That was April 1st. And this should catch our attention because here in 2018, Passover this year is also going to be April 1st. So there's multiple things that catch our attention of historical things that we've seen within the last generation, telling us that we should be expecting the Messiah. There's so many things that remind us of what we've been told to look for, and we're here looking for him. So April 1st, 1969, on Passover, was when the decree went forth. And if you go to timeanddate.com to their date calculator with April 1st, 1969, and you add 49 years, that will give you Sunday, April 1st, 2018. But if you go in and type it in the day format of 17,885 days, that will give you March 20th, 2018, which was the vernal equinox. And a lot of people were looking at that time too. Now, it appears the difference between doing it by days and years, if you do it by years, there would assumingly be the addition of leap days and things with the Gregorian calendar. And that's one of the big questions that comes up in prophetic discussions, and that's one reason why there's so many articles out there and everybody thinks their way is the right way. So we're not going to cover that here. But the question of how do you count those 49 years? The advantage for us is we can look backwards in time because we're at the end here. And so we know exactly how long those 49 years have been on the celestial calendar. We know exactly how long they were. And we can punch those dates in on time and date of the start of the biblical celestial year in 1969 and then how it just recently ended. And we know it was 17,898 days. So we know how long 49 biblical years on the celestial calendar that we've been following, how long that actually is. And you can divide it by 365, and that gives you 49 years. So we know the duration of the years that have passed is 49, counting by solar years, 365. But if you add just plain 49 years onto April 1st, 1969, that apparently will bring you to April 1st. Where if you do it exactly so you can account for all the days specifically, a true 49 years of 365 days would bring you to March 20th, 2018. I'm just going to put them on the table for discussion. It gives us something to think about. And again, we've got to keep this in mind in context of the celestial signs that we have seen. What do we know? What has led us to here? We've been told we will look up, we will lift up our heads, and we will know by that our redemption draweth nigh. So we already know our redemption draweth nigh, and then we arrived right here at this time just rich, chock full of so many pictures of redemption right here. And the Lord's given incredible wisdom and understanding, piecing together all these beautiful pictures, helping us understand the tapestry of redemption so much more. So in that greater context, we should not be surprised that there's several other things that relate to His first coming, to His first time, that are also right here at this prophetic time in our time. Again, the prophecy that was involved with His first coming, when we understand it, what led Him to it, and why they should have known, this was the day of your visitation. You should have known the Prince was coming, the Messiah was coming, the King was coming on this day. They knew to the day when He would be riding into Jerusalem. And so we study this and we understand the context, the chain of events, we understand what happened there, and that gives us a really good clue as we look for Him to appear the second time. We are going to be looking for Him, because we are expecting Him. We know that our redemption draweth nigh. We know it's coming because we've studied it. And we've been watching for Him to return the second time. Now when we look on the timeline, we're at March 22nd, 23rd, quickly coming up onto some very important events and markers that deal with when Christ came the first time. Most importantly, the triumphal entry. That's going to be commemorated on March 28th, 29th. But you'll remember from our studies, it was the days right before He came that He was also approaching the city. He was getting ready to come. He was coming from Jericho, going to Bethany. He was drawing nigh to the city, getting close in those days right before the triumphal entry too. And we don't know what day or hour He's coming, but we definitely see a day approaching that reminds us of when He came the first time. And that's all we can say. We have to be sober. We have to be vigilant. Realize there are a lot of different options for high marks of expectation, and we are going to find treasure almost every single day, especially as we stay in God's Word and read the gospel accounts of Christ's first coming. There's a lot right here that commands our attention. So we're going to go forward one day at a time, but realize there's a lot of options to look at right here. And keeping that in mind, considering on top of everything else we've seen, the potential for the 7-week window to be in this area, whether you go with the April 1st, 1969 or the May 6th, 1969, which gives you a window from the strongest point being at the beginning around March 20th all the way potentially to April 24th if you go with the weaker of the two arguments. But definitely the stronger argument is toward the beginning, but that still gives us a window from March 20th to April 1st. And it should catch our attention that the commemoration of the first time He came falls exactly within that window. So we see a day approaching that strongly reminds us of when Christ came the first time. That does not mean He has to come on that day. But we definitely keep it in mind as a high watch day just by itself, just because of the sheer prophetic weight of it being the first time. But we also know that Christ can come at any time right before it. And even in the account of Him coming first time, He did arrive on the scene shortly before that too. We are in a high watch time right now, and it should also catch our attention how there's even multiple calendar systems that are all very close looking at this time as well. So there's a lot of discussion about exactly which day it is on too, and that should remind us of what Jesus said. He said, we won't know the day or hour, but He definitely coupled it with watch, because you do not know the day and the hour. You can't calculate it ahead of time. Even the angels can't, who are smarter than you. And with that repeated warning that we won't know the day or the hour, he couples it immediately with watch. That's why you do need to watch. You will have a very good idea of the window and the time frame and all the other prophetic pictures that draw you toward the end of the last generation, and all the celestial signs that you'll look up and lift up your head and see. You'll have a lot of things telling you a day is approaching, a time is approaching. And you'll have multiple things pointing and reminding you about Christ's first coming too, telling you you should expect your redemption. You're going to see pictures of redemption, and it's all going to come together at one time. But keep in mind, you will not know the day or the hour. You cannot calculate it, and again, especially with all the confusion about the calendars going on right now, we know this is a high time right here, but let's not get caught up on a particular day, because this is what we've been forewarned about, and this is why he emphasizes, be ye therefore ready also. You need to be ready ahead of time because you do not know the exact day. You have to get ready before I come, because it will be a surprise when I do come. This is why he warned, watch and pray. We watch for him prophetically, for his return. We watch ourselves, we take heed to ourselves, and we pray. And we take inventory of our spiritual walk with the Lord and our fellowship and our relationship with him, and we also ask him for wisdom and strength as we go forward too. We are at a time when we need to be making ourselves ready, knowing he is about to show up. We've been studying all these pictures of him coming the first time, and what was the thing that he chewed out the Pharisees and all of Jerusalem for? And he judged them and he cursed them, because they weren't ready. They weren't making themselves ready. They weren't living as though he was about to show up. They could care less that he showed up. It's actually a surprise. The Bible even tells us when he came into Jerusalem, they asked, who's this? It was a complete surprise to them. They were caught unawares. And that was the lesson he impressed upon the disciples shortly thereafter. He said, when the Son of Man comes again during the days of Noah and Lot, you need to make sure you are not caught unawares, and you need to make sure you are ready when I show up. This is why we need to pay attention to what Jesus commanded the disciples and what they went to all nations, teaching them whatsoever he commanded, and what the Holy Spirit given to the New Testament church is going to remind us of what Jesus said. Because it's for us. He wants us to be ready. He wants us to be like the servants who are found with their lamps burning bright. We are shining bright for him because we know he's about to come. We want to be like the disciples who are glorifying God with our life, bringing glory to our Father even now. The book of Revelation with the letters to the 7 churches reminds us, let us have an ear to hear what the Spirit says to the churches. We have so many things reminding us of how he came the first time. We know this is a time of expectation. We know the day of our redemption draweth nigh. And as we know we're really close, let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, to purify ourselves, to wash our feet, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more, as ye see the day approaching. We see a time right here. We're practically right on top of it right now, where we are expecting our Lord, we are expecting our Redeemer, our beloved, our bridegroom. Because we've been looking up, we've been lifting up our heads, we've been also studying how he came the first time, and how he is offered to bear the sins of many. And so we are expecting the redemption of the purchased possession. So as the bride of Christ, the collective, corporate body of Christ, we encourage one another. That's what we're told to do. Consider one another. We encourage the assembly, the ecclesia, and so much the more as we see the day approaching. We have had so many things drawing us to this point, telling us, look up, your redemption draweth nigh. You see the story of your Redeemer, the sign of the Son of Man? Your redemption's nigh. And when you look forward in time on the timeline calendar, you can see the reminder of when Christ came the first time, when he came to bear the sins of many. We're at this time of redemption with the expectation of redemption. We have heard so many trumpet calls that have told us, your bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. So let us rise up. Let us trim our lamps. Let us cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light, drawing close to our Redeemer, loving him and serving him, first and highest above all else. Maranatha.